Hello and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be reviewing my custom LEGO Transformers Inferno. So starting off here, we have him in his fire truck mode, and this is obviously based on the Kingdom figure. Now I don't actually own that Kingdom figure, however I do have Earthrise Grapple, so it's still based on the same base mold, with the only real difference being the fact that he does have the ladder with a hose at the end instead of the crane arm. I also use one of the Creo All About logos because I do think it looks quite nice here, and it does work for the design. And you can see from the side view, he actually does look quite good, and obviously, the ladder is articulated. It can hinge a full 180 degrees, but I think this is as far as you would reasonably need it to go. And it can also rotate around 360 degrees. It also features a hinge in the middle due to the transformation, but I wouldn't really count that as articulation, as fire trucks don't normally do that. Now, I do plan on doing an art fire of this guy, so I'm not going to do many comparisons, but here he is with the Earthrise Grapple. And honestly, I think I've done pretty well here. These two do look pretty similar, and the Allmo logo does look quite nice on Inferno. And apart from the fact that I've kind of beefed up the fire truck, it does look pretty accurate to what I was going for. It also looks slightly more realistic than the cartoony proportions of the other one. But here at the front you can see I've got all the headlight details as well as the front bumper accurate to the design. And for one last comparison, we may as well compare him to the Speed Champions car. So here he is with a minifigure and a Lamborghini Countach. And this genuinely might be one of the better scales that I've ever done, as these work really well together, at least in my opinion. And I could definitely see him fitting into one of the LEGO City displays, especially with the city vehicles. But I think it's time for the transformation. So to start off with, we're going to compress the ladder. Unlike the Kingdom figure, this one rotates around instead of slides in, but it still compacts quite nicely. And now, using the swivel joint I mentioned earlier, we can just rotate it around 180 degrees. And using the hinge, we can just compress it. And it should look something like this. So that is just about the ladder done for now. So we'll move on to the arms. But first we're going to untab them from the side panel, which will just fold down onto the side of his leg. And this will give us clearance to hinge out the arm. So considering it's just on a hinge joint, you should all know what comes next. And we might as well repeat these steps on the other side. So you do just untab the square panel from the side of the arm, and it will rotate down onto the leg. And we can hinge the arm forward now. Once this is done, we can come to the main torso, which only has really one main step, which is folding it down and revealing the waist section. So it should look something like that. And we might as well compress this triple hinge here, which I'd say compacts quite nicely. And we can also rotate around this head unit. And we can hinge back the ladder. And if you own any of this guy's molds, you'll know this is very similar to how he actually transforms. And now coming to the feet, they are just on a double hinge joint, so we can just compress them into the legs, and it should look like this once they're all ready. And we're on the home stretch here, but now we can rotate down the arms, as they're just on these two ball joints. And the final step for the arms is we can just rotate out the fists, which should look something like this. And now for the head assembly, we can just unhinge these side pieces, and they are on jumper plates, which means they're going to have to rotate all the way around, and that is this guy in his robot mode. And in my opinion, he does look pretty neat. Now this is a slightly more stylized design compared to the alt mode, as he is just slightly beefier than he was in the show. But honestly, I really like how this guy looks, and there's very little kibble, except the ladder on the back, which obviously, it has to go somewhere, and like the Kingdom figure, I've chosen just to place it on the back, instead of hinge it into the torso, like the MPM. But, in my opinion, this actually works quite well, as it gives you a good place to hold the figure. And it doesn't even look that bad, as I think it's better to have the ladder on display here, rather than just disappearing. Obviously, like I said before, I've used these Creo All About logos, which I think work really well here, as it just helps them stick out slightly more. I've also gone for a slightly more stylized head, as in the cartoon his head changed quite a bit. And for the arms, I think they work quite well, even if there is slightly too many studs showing, but at this point I was running out of these flat red panels, so I think the studs are a nice compromise. I also do think the fist could have been slightly bigger, which is something I might try and improve on the art fire that I'm going to be doing. But I do really like the cylindrical sections on the leg, as it is very accurate to Kingdom figure, and it's just a really nice detail of this design. And when I compare it to Grapple later, you'll see how accurate it really is. And even this lower leg section is pretty accurate. And even this extra panel on the side doesn't actually look that bad, and it doesn't really stick out. I also think the feet do work quite well here, as they are just one big flat base, and it really does help in posing. The double wheels here also do look really cool. And it's one of my favourite aspects from the design. Now I know the wheels aren't red like they actually should be, but I didn't have any red wheel pieces that would fit on this guy, so I decided to keep them grey, which is slightly more realistic anyway. And even the slight arm kibble doesn't bother me too much, as it does kind of work into the design for him being a slightly chunkier guy. So bringing out Earthrise Grapple for comparison, you'll be able to see this guy is actually ginormous. So getting Grapple transformed should be pretty easy, as it is the exact same transformation as this Lego guy. So here you can see he is definitely way too big for the Earthrise comparison. And he does tower over the little counterpart here, but I think for replicating the toy, it does work quite well. And you can see here all the details I managed to recreate on the Lego version. And obviously the ladder here is accurate to the placement on the Kingdom version. And it does look quite nice, like I said before. Even the proportions here are actually very similar to the Voyager figure, even if I do think the elbows are located slightly too high up. But I'd say on an accuracy front, this guy is actually one of the better that I've done. And I also do like the ear flaps that he has, as they just add something to this design the Grapple doesn't have. Now I'm not going to be covering articulation here, but for the most part it is pretty good, and ankles especially are very articulated just like the actual figure. And the only important joint is missing is a waist rotation, as I just could not fit it in for the transformation, as I didn't want to make it too fiddly, as it is slightly loose in the waist area anyway, and I didn't want to overcomplicate him just for a joint when I'm never going to be posing this guy anyway. But I think that's just about it for this review. So if you've enjoyed this video, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see LEGO Transformers twice every week. As from now on, I'm going to be uploading like my old schedule, as I will have some more free time on my hands to make figures. But anyways, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see everyone next week. So, have a good time.